Welcome to the Art of War History. The year is 1942. The Second World War rages across the globe, but nowhere is the fight more critical than the frigid, unforgiving waters of the North Atlantic. This is the Battle of the Atlantic, a brutal, high-stakes duel between Allied convoys and the German U-boat fleet. The enemy submarines, operating in deadly wolf packs, were systematically sinking merchant ships, choking the lifelines of food and war materials to Great Britain. The Allies had a critical problem, the dreaded mid-Atlantic gap. This vast expanse of ocean was beyond the patrol range of land-based aircraft, creating a 1,000-mile-wide sanctuary where U-boats could strike with impunity. Conventional aircraft carriers were the solution, but steel was a precious commodity, desperately needed for tanks, guns, and warships already under construction. Desperate times indeed called for utterly radical measures. Enter Geoffrey Pyke, an eccentric, brilliant, and unconventional inventor and adventurer. Pyke was the kind of mind that saw not obstacles, but resources. He posed a simple, insane question. If steel was scarce, what was abundant? The answer, he realized, was ice. Pyke envisioned a gigantic, floating, unsinkable airfield, an artificial iceberg that could patrol the mid-Atlantic and finally close the net on the U-boats. He named his ambitious, almost unbelievable scheme Project Habakkuk, after a verse in the Bible. "Behold ye among the nations, and look, and wonder marvelously, for I will work a work in your days which ye will not believe, though it be told you." The initial idea of a pure ice carrier was quickly dismissed. Natural ice is brittle, cracks easily, and of course, melts. But Pyke, working with Austrian-born scientist Max Perutz, found a solution that would become the project's entire foundation: Pykrete. The discovery was startlingly simple. By mixing about 14% wood pulp, basically sawdust, with 86% water and freezing it, they created a composite material with extraordinary properties. This new material, which Pyke named Pykrete, was far tougher than regular ice, resistant to splintering, and crucially, it melted much slower. In a famous demonstration for the skeptical British Chiefs of Staff, Lord Mountbatten, who championed the project, presented two blocks. One was pure ice, the other Pykrete. He fired a pistol at both. The ice shattered instantly. The bullet ricocheted harmlessly off the Pykrete, causing only a minor chip. The men in the room were stunned. Pykrete was tougher than concrete and could withstand a torpedo hit with only localized damage, which could theoretically be repaired simply by pumping in more water and letting it freeze. Armed with this miracle material, the designs for the final carrier began to take shape. This was to be a behemoth, the largest vessel ever conceived. The proposed Habakkuk II carrier would be 2,000 feet long, that's over a third of a mile, 300 feet wide, and would displace over 2 million tons. Its hull would be up to 40 feet thick, and its flight deck would host a complement of 150 twin-engine fighters and bombers. It was literally a man-made, mobile iceberg. With the backing of Winston Churchill himself, the project was moved forward, hidden away in one of the most remote and coldest locations available, Patricia Lake in Jasper National Park, Canada. Secrecy was paramount. The construction site was disguised as a simple boathouse on the lakeshore. Under the watchful eyes of Canadian and American engineers, a prototype was built. Not the full-size carrier, of course, but a 1/50th scale model, a massive 60-foot-long miniature berg ship, to test the feasibility of Pyke's revolutionary design. The challenge wasn't just freezing the ice, it was keeping it frozen. The finished full-scale vessel would have to survive the warmer waters of the Atlantic. This required a colossal, complex internal infrastructure. The final design called for an intricate network of refrigeration ducts, miles of piping carrying brine to keep the massive Pykrete hull constantly chilled. But the very act of building the model began to expose the stark realities of the project. A ship of Habakkuk's dimensions required astronomical quantities of materials. The estimates were staggering: 300,000 tons of wood pulp, 35,000 tons of timber, and 10,000 tons of steel for the structure and refrigeration plant. The estimated cost soared to £10 million, a colossal sum in 1943. Perhaps even more problematic, the demand for wood pulp was so high that it would have consumed the entire projected output of the Canadian and American pulp industry for an entire year. The prototype in Patricia Lake, despite being constantly refrigerated, began to suffer from a phenomenon called creep. Under its own immense weight, the Pykrete structure was slowly, imperceptibly distorting and sagging. A structure that huge, made of ice, even reinforced ice, struggled to maintain its shape. The necessary cooling plant grew larger and more complex, ironically requiring more of the precious steel and resources the project was intended to save. By the autumn of 1943, the tide of the Battle of the Atlantic had begun to turn decisively. A combination of more practical, less resource-intensive solutions began to close the mid-Atlantic gap naturally. The development of long-range aircraft, equipped with new drop tanks and improved radar, allowed Allied planes to patrol much further out to sea from bases in Newfoundland and the Azores. Crucially, the rapid construction of S-port carriers, smaller, more conventional aircraft carriers that could be mass-produced, provided the mobility and air cover that convoys desperately needed. While not as grand as Habakkuk, these smaller vessels were real, deployable, and proved highly effective in hunting U-boats. The sheer scale, immense cost, and resource demands of Project Habakkuk simply made it impossible to justify. The war effort could not spare the thousands of men, the millions of tons of material, and the vast energy required to build a single, experimental ice carrier. In December 1943, Project Habakkuk was officially, quietly, abandoned. The vast Pykrete carrier never sailed the Atlantic, never launched a single Spitfire into battle. Its legacy, however, remains a powerful testament to wartime ingenuity and the lengths to which desperate men will go to secure victory. The prototype on Patricia Lake was simply left to melt. Because of the Pykrete's slow-melting properties, it took 3 entire Canadian summers for the massive block of ice to finally disappear beneath the surface of the lake. Today, the wreck of the insulated wooden hull, the bones of the forgotten ice ship, still rests on the bottom of Patricia Lake, marked by an underwater memorial plaque. It is an obscure, silent relic of an unbelievable plan. Project Habakkuk was a spectacular failure in engineering terms, but a stunning success in innovation. It proved the viability of Pykrete, a material that, while not practical for a million-ton ship, continues to be studied by material scientists. The story of the ice carrier is a perfect distillation of the art of war history. The desperate, genius, and sometimes impossible ideas born in the crucible of conflict. The Allies, facing annihilation, looked beyond the conventional. They looked beyond steel, and they dared to build a warship out of water. It was a work few believed, even when it was told.